high concentrations, yet it is effective as a preservative in biologics and is used, is continued to be used as a preservative, for example, in some of the eye drops.
Now, one of the things that concerns me, Doctor, is that you say that mercury in vaccines has not been proven to be a problem. How do you account for this dramatic rise? Do you think that's all genetics?
Yeah, I don't know the causes of the rise in autism.
You will admit, though, it's a dramatic rise.
It's dramatic, and I would agree with your assessment as epidemic.
And mercury is a poison.
Yes, it is. It's neurotoxic.
And FDA and CDC are committed to phasing it out.
Yes,
why not take it out right now, today? 8,000 children are going to be immunized today, and they're going to be getting this in their bodies. Why not phase it out immediately? That we understand that there is a supply for every child in America of non-mercury-oriented drugs or vaccinations. Why is it we're not phasing it out today? There's members on the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. Of the 11 members, six of them have financial interests of one kind or another in the pharmaceutical companies that manufacture these vaccines. That doesn't look good to the public. Now, it may or may not be something that we should be concerned about, but it does concern a lot of people that we're keeping mercury that isn't necessary in vaccines when we have a supply that doesn't have to have that mercury in there. And at the same time, the committee that's making the advisory panel that makes recommendations to CDC, over half of them have financial interests in the pharmaceutical companies. And we checked for 10 years, the past 10 years, and every one of the recommendations by the advisory panels has been accepted by FDA and CDC. So what they say is pretty much law. Now, how do you account for that?
Even a third round of questions. I have a lot of questions to ask these witnesses. I do want to open up my questioning by making a statement that I have a staffer who is in the Navy Reserve right now, but he used to be active with the airborne divisions, and he was in for a test in one of the medical military hospitals, and upon taking his temperature, they broke a thermometer, and mercury splattered across his glasses, and some got into his eye. Do you know what happened to this adult, healthy Navy man? Well, the first thing they did was they cut off his clothes. The second thing they did was call in OSHA, for Pete's sakes, to clean up the mercury. And then they worked on him to make sure his eyes were irrigated out. And you guys, you witnesses, absolutely amaze me. I wonder where the disconnect is, for Pete's sakes. You sat here and listened to the testimony just as I did. And you're willing to with a straight face, tell us you're eventually going to phase this out after we know that a small little baby's body is slammed with 62 times the amount of mercury it's supposed to have. And OSHA reacts like they did in the case of this accident of this naval man. It doesn't make sense. No wonder people are losing faith in their government. And to have one of the witnesses tell us it's because mothers eat too much fish? Come on. We expect you to get real. We heard devastating testimony in this hearing today, and we heard it last April. And this is the kind of response we get from our government agencies? I am sorry. You know, when I was a little girl, my daddy talked to me about something about a duck test. Now, I would ask each one of you to read this very excellent work by Sally Bernard and Albert Ignati, who testified here today. It is excellent. My daddy used to say, if it walks like a duck and looks like a duck and talks like a duck and sounds like a duck, for Pete's sakes, it's a duck. I recommend you just simply get out of your paralysis of analysis and start by reading this, the side-by-side, page after page side-by-side analysis of the symptoms of people who are affected with mercury poisoning compared to autism. This is the duck test. And you folks are trying to tell us that you can't take this off the market when 8,000 children are going to be injected tomorrow. 80 children may be coming down beginning tomorrow with autism. What if there was an E. coli scare? What if there was a problem with an automobile? The recall would be like that. We're asking you to do something more than analyze it. We're asking you to tell this body and the American people more than there's no conclusive evidence or it's all theory. Folks, it passes the duck test. And we need you to respond. We need that to come off the market now. Because you think that we're elevating the case today, just wait till it gets in the courts. This case could dwarf the tobacco case. And we would expect you to do something now before that circus starts taking place. Denial is not proper right now. I yield back the balance of my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Chenoweth. If there's any question whatsoever about mercury and vaccine, if there's even a question, and if there is a question, you're phasing it out. I mean, you're phasing it out because there is a question. You have a supply of all the vaccines that are necessary to immunize the children of this country. You have that. You have them now. Why in the world are you continuing to immunize kids with something that's questionable? You can't. Give me an answer. I don't understand it.
To date, we have no evidence, convincing evidence, of harm from the thimerosal.
I know, Doctor.
That's because in vaccines.
I'm going to yield. Doctor, I understand. You said that, and I understand that. But the point is, you have a supply that you don't have to worry about. And you have a supply over here that you're phasing the mercury out of because there is concern. Maybe there's no scientific evidence yet. I believe there probably is, but maybe you don't agree with that. But you're phasing it out. So if you're phasing it out, why in the world not use what you know to be safe so that the kids of this...
Mr. Chairman.
The point is, today, you have a supply of vaccine that could be used to vaccinate every child in America that does not contain mercury. Now, the 8,000 children that are going to be vaccinated today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day are going to have mercury in the vaccine. Now, if you're wrong, those kids could become autistic as a result of that. Now, you may be right, but if you're wrong, like my grandson, they could become autistic and be ruined for life. So my question was, and no matter how much hyperbole you use, my question was and is, if you've got a safe supply of vaccine over here, why are you using the other? Now, you said, well, you only want to have one supply. You don't want to have one supplier. Well, get the others up to speed as quickly as possible. You've got a supply now. You've got people that are supplying it now. And this hypothesis that there might be a fire and all that other stuff begs the question. If you have a fire and if you don't have a supply, then you still got a supply of the mercury-oriented vaccine as a backup if you have to use it. But why not use the safe stuff right now? Ms. Gentleman?